Well, hello everyone, and thank you all for taking the time today to participate in our webinar, and I'd like to thank Emily Tucker for helping us organize this as well. My name is Matthew Schell. I'm CAPSIM's Business Development Manager, where I aid both our high school and our career and technical education users, both instructors and students. And the reason we decided to conduct this webinar was that, as you may know, it can be kind of difficult sometimes to find practical and experiential learning solutions for business classes. And with over our 30 years of experience in both simulations and assessments, we have quite a few different high school level solutions that we'd like to show to you today. And we actually have been a part of the BOSS project down in Arkansas, where a variety of middle schoolers and high schoolers have been using CAPSIMCore and another one of our simulations, Foundation, for several years now. And what I'd like to do is I'd just like to start by going over a quick agenda of what we'll be covering for today. We'll be starting by hearing a little bit about us here at CAPSIM, including our company's history and a little bit of our reach around the globe, from our Director of Client Services, Mr. Carter Allagood. And then from there, we're going to go briefly through 4 of our high school level solutions. And after that, we'd like to invite you to try these solutions yourself. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll provide it to you all shortly after. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to submit them either into the chat, or you can always talk to us directly. We'll be opening up the lines here, so if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask directly, they can do that as well. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Carter. Carter?
All right, excellent. Thank you, Matt. I wanted to give you just a brief history of CAPSIM. We've been around since 1985, so we're in our 33rd year of operation. We started off in developing simulations for the university market, pretty quickly went into the corporate market as well. We want to focus a little bit on universities. We are working with 960 schools. Really, that's actually so far this year. We work with about 2,000, just over 2,000 professors, and actually if you throw in teaching assistants and graduate assistants in the university level, that number is actually closer to about 8,000 or 9,000. And we have last year 127,000 students, and I believe actually we're passing that number today. I haven't checked the report recently.
Good timing.
But we work really closely with some very large universities, and we have for years, and we enjoy some very good relationships with them, delivering simulation and assessment products at that level. Now, as Matt mentioned, we've been working at the high school and even middle school level, really with the BOSS program was one of our first large ones. We also do a fairly large program out of Berkeley in California, and we were doing one that Matt actually conducted out of DePaul.
Yep.
here in Chicago. Since we really started focusing, we've grown quite a lot in the high school market. We're learning quite a lot with it, quite excited about the opportunity and potential here, especially when we started getting into the Perkins funding and doing some work with that. As Matt said, feel free to interrupt us. This is not a huge group, so you can stop us and ask any questions as we go along, and happy to answer them at any time. Support and training, sorry. So we do offer phone support for professors for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and we have email support that operates 7 days a week and actually off hours as well. And so it's one of the big distinctions between us and some of our competitors is the amount of support that we offer, and we're constantly getting great reviews on that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Carter. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and provide you all with a brief overview of 4 of our high school focused solutions. 2 of these are going to be focused more on students' technical and analytical skill development, and then there's going to be another 2 that are going to be focusing on assessing and developing students' soft skills. And we'll be starting with our entry-level business simulation, CAPSIMCore, which we actually designed specifically with high school career and technical education, as well as lower undergrad intro to business courses in mind as well. And what students are going to be doing in CAPSIMCore is they're going to be in groups running their own multi-million-dollar company. So they are the leadership team of about a $40 million company where they're going to be learning how various different business departments interact and strive to incrementally improve their company over a series of rounds or simulated years. And with each team representing a company, your students can actually directly compete against each other in a closed marketplace while trying to strive to become the leader of the sensor industry. And this really does a lot to really engage the students, really make it more of a competitive, fun atmosphere, because who doesn't want to be the best team in the class? But before the student ever steps foot in CAPSIMCore, we're going to provide them with a very comprehensive and completely self-directed training module where we're really trying to achieve two things. First and foremost, we want to introduce the students to the technical aspects of the sim. So, where do I make my decisions? How do I save them? And where can I actually review my results? And secondly, we want to introduce the students to the very business concepts that they're going to be encountering throughout the simulation. Now also, you as an instructor are going to be able to set up practice rounds, see individual student progress through the training, and even make the completion of that training a grading component if you wish to do so. But by the end of the first hour, the students will have had this hands-on experience, they'll have demonstrated that they understand the basics of navigating the sim, and they'll show that they've had some practice with the decision-making process before going into it. But once they complete that onboarding, they're ready to jump right into the simulation itself. And the core of the student experience is really all about trying to showcase discovery through cross-functional decision-making. So in CAPSIMCore, during the course of 8 simulated years, or these rounds, they're going to be making some very basic business strategy decisions across 4 common departments, including R&D, marketing, production, and finance. And each year, they're going to have to evaluate the effectiveness of their decisions and be analyzing an industry report while trying to learn from their mistakes. And what this really does is it's going to give them exposure to analysis, a bit of critical thinking, and then, of course, reflection, because they're going to be getting constant feedback throughout this process. But what are the actual decisions that they're going to be making? Well, to start, they're actually going to be setting a product strategy in the R&D department. And what they're going to be doing here is actually inventing and designing sensor products to target consumers in low-tech and high-tech. From there, they'll move to marketing, and they'll be doing things such as setting product prices, marketing budgets, and doing some sales forecasting. From there, they'll go into the production department to execute their vision, and they'll be setting production schedules and expanding their plant over time to meet new demand. And then finally, they're going to move to the finance department, where they'll be using short-term and long-term debt to be able to fund the decisions they made in the other 3 departments. Now, after all of these decisions have been made, the round is then processed, and then we have the results come in the form of that industry report that I was referring to. And in CAPSIMCore, we're evaluating the students on 5 key metrics, being sales, profit, contribution margin, and stock price. And those are the first 4. If they show improvements over last year's numbers for these metrics, they get a star. And if they were to not achieve the same as last year or better, they would not get a star. Now, in regards to the 5th and final star, the students are going to have to make sure that they raise enough capital to get them through the year, and if they don't, they may receive an emergency loan and lose a star for that round. But in case you don't like the way that we have this particular scoring setup, we're more than happy to help you customize these metrics to better suit your class in particular. Now, as an instructor, you're going to be able to break down each round within CAPSIMCore through the use of the debrief tool, which will be your main tool as the instructor, and it's going to provide you with an automated analysis of how all of your students did within that given round of the simulation. And it's going to provide you with everything from custom discussion topics based off of your particular student's results. And if you're having students that are struggling on a particular metric, we can help provide you with tips. That way you can share that with the students to help them turn their performance around. And what's great about these debrief sessions where you're translating the results to them is that there's always this sense of anticipation in the room prior to releasing the results. The students really want to see how they did. They're speculating, they're on the edge of their seat. And what you're going to find is when you release these results, a whole different array of emotion based on those results themselves. But as you're planning your course, just keep in mind that with CAPSIMCore, we really did try to make it as modular and as flexible as possible. And really, we've seen this simulation used in all sorts of different formats, whether it be a quarter-long or a year-long class, as a homework assignment, or even as a class project. But really, our main goal here is we want to make sure that we're hitting on your particular learning objectives and have the ability to streamline the content within a simulation. That way, we're only focusing on the concepts that are most relevant to your course. And a good example of this would be, say you're teaching an Intro to Marketing course, for example. Well, maybe finance isn't something you want to spend a lot of time on. Maybe it's not the focus, or maybe you just have a separate accounting class. Well, what we did was we created policy decisions within CAPSIMCore. And what these are is it's a way for us to semi-automate any of the 4 departments I was describing to kind of consolidate the decisions all into one main decision, where your students would say, we want to have an aggressive, a moderate, or a conservative policy for this department for the year. So we downsize their involvement in that particular department, but we're not simply turning it off. That way they're still getting exposure to that particular subject field. And then the last thing I wanted to cover in regards to CAPSIMCore is the bundle that comes with it, or our class-in-a-box option. So if you're looking for something more of a turnkey solution, with the bundle, in addition to the simulation we've been describing, we also include quizzes. So you could actually create your own custom assessments within the simulation. The students complete them in the sim, and then you can export them directly to your gradebook. So you have that function. We also have case studies that we developed here at CAPSIM, which relate to our 4 departments and showcase some more of the modern companies out there, such as Tesla. And we actually have a full-fledged Intro to Business textbook, e-textbook that comes with this, that every student would have access to. And that's going to include everything from learning objectives to review questions and additional mini case studies throughout that. But what's most important is that all these resources that I'm describing were developed together. So all the terminology and concepts are going to be congruent across these resources. So with that, we've given you a pretty good overview of CAPSIMCore. What I'd like to do now is to introduce you to one of our newest simulations, which is CAPSIM Global, its sister product. Now, with CAPSIM Global, it's actually very similar to CAPSIMCore in terms of the style and the substance. But the main difference here is going to be, of course, that this is going to be an entry-level international business simulation, as opposed to the sole domestic market that students would be going through in CAPSIMCore. But with CAPSIM Global, the user interface, the department, decisions from core are all fairly alike, but we added some key additions that way we can give this a much more international focus. Now, what are those changes that we added? Well, those are going to include changing the product itself. So we're in CAPSIMCore, we're talking about sensors. Here in CAPSIM Global, we're talking about medical genetic testing devices. So the students are actually designing products that are going to go out there and save lives. And we also added the introduction of 2 international markets, being China and Germany, in addition to the U.S. domestic market. Now, as far as some other changes and additions we add, each of these different countries are going to have varying segment sizes, different growth rates. And as a result of that, the students are going to be able to actually customize their products to better fit certain regions around the globe. And in addition to that, we also added currency exchange rates, transaction fees, tax rates, tariffs, and shipping costs too. And that's a very quick synopsis of CAPSIM Global. And now that we've kind of covered both core and global, where they focused more on technical and analytical skill development, now we're going to go ahead and switch gears to the other side of career development and talk a little bit about soft skills.
Does anybody have any questions about CAPSIMCore?
Absolutely. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the soft skill side of things then. So while Carter was describing that our main focus is primarily on academia, we also provide a lot of different professional development opportunities for some of the world's largest corporations out there, a few of which that you can see here. And as a result of doing these corporate trainings with them, we pay very close attention to what our clients are looking for when it comes to existing or new employees. And their feedback, in addition to a lot of the research we've done on our end, have really been indicating that we're at a critical moment right now when it comes to developing student soft skills these days. And when I say soft skills, I'm referring to things such as leadership capabilities, communicative abilities, and problem solving as well. So therefore, we decided to try to do something different, a little bit of a departure from our other simulations, and we created CAPSIMInbox. And CAPSIMInbox is one of the world's first simulation-based soft skill assessments. And what we're trying to achieve here is we want to be able to assess and develop each of your students' soft skills and provide you with a snapshot as to where those skills are at a given point in time. And the main soft skills we're looking at trying to measure are initiating, problem solving, organizing, leading, and communication. But after a very quick onboarding, very much as comprehensive as course, the students are going to be asked a question. Relative to your peers, where do you place yourself for each of these 5 skills that I've described on a scale of 0 to 100, so on a percentile basis? And what this does is it's essentially a pretest before they actually go into the inbox simulation itself. Now, what does the inbox simulation look like? Well, here's the simulation itself, and as you can see, it looks very much like the Outlooks, the Gmails that we use on a day-to-day basis. We really want to make this as high fidelity of an experience as possible. And within CAPSIMInbox, students are going to take the role of a middle-level manager at an Internet of Things company, much like Google. And the story is that they've returned from a long vacation and they're now inundated with a series of emails from people above and below them that they have to try to respond to within 60 minutes time. And what we're also looking at here is students' time management, as well as the consistency and the proficiency of their responses. And after attempting to select the most effective email responses throughout this simulation, we then compared those results with the student's self-assessment. And what students are given is a very detailed feedback report that hits on their overall performance in Inbox in relation to other high school level users. So they're only measured at people within their own education level. But we also discussed some other things, such as self-awareness levels, as well as visually show their skill gaps. That way we can identify which areas are in most need for improvement. And then from there, things really start to get interesting because we assist the student with helping them create a self-directed individual development plan. That way they come out of this feedback, come out of Inbox with actionable goals to improve those soft skills. Now, what's also unique about Inbox is it really is much a platform. And this has allowed us to create several different narratives that are not solely business focused, but could focus on other career cluster areas and other core competencies and skills as well. In fact, at this point in time, we currently have 3 different versions of Inbox. The one we've been primarily focusing on the last few minutes is our first version, General Management. However, we have additional ones including People Management, which has a more human resources focus. How do you manage human capital? And equally as it's interesting at the high school level as General Management is our newest one, Ethical Decision Making, where they are a general manager at a boutique hotel dealing with all sorts of ethical conundrums and trying to see how they best handle the situation. Now, in addition to these 3 versions of Inbox that we're describing, I'm happy to share with you a little bit about the future that we've got going for us when it comes to Inbox. So just at this time right now, we're working on several different versions of CAPSIMInbox, including a forensic accounting one, business law, a healthcare administration one, and then several ones that we're just now starting on, including one specifically devoted to marketing, crisis management, time management, and then finally operations management. And what we often see with CAPSIMInbox is a pre-test, post-test style implementation where each student would get 2 uses. And where we see this most commonly is in your entrepreneurship courses, intro to business, and business communication courses, is where instructors will have the students go through CAPSIMInbox once at the beginning of the course and then once at the end of the course. That way they can actually see that empirical longitudinal development over time. But it doesn't stop there. If the student wanted to go through Inbox again, say in their post-secondary education or within their career, they're going to be able to see their progress over time, all the way going back to the very first time that they may have used it in your class. And that gives a very good view of what is entailed in CAPSIMInbox. So while still focusing on soft skills, I'll go ahead and I'll switch to the last of our solutions that we'll be highlighting today, which is going to be Teammate. And Teammate is our online peer and group assessment tool that allows you to administer a series of different assessments that can capture feedback on how your students are performing at both the individual and at a group level. And a good way to think about this is a digital version of your typical paper assessment, with the goal being to provide students with the critical feedback they need to improve their effectiveness in a team setting. Something that's pretty much required across virtually all careers out there. So it's not just suitable for business classes, but for any class where group work may be present. And as far as the peer assessments go, they're going to be evaluating each student's performance, and you can utilize those for grading, while the team assessments can offer developmental opportunities and feedback on how they can improve and identify teamwork strengths and weaknesses. And we also do provide a lot of additional resources with Teammate as well, interactive graphs and additional resources like videos for some additional self-directed learning. And that's a very quick synopsis of Teammate. So now that we've covered all 4 of our high school solutions, I'd just like to quickly note that, with any combination of these solutions that we've highlighted, that you're really giving the students an all-encompassing kind of development while hitting on both that technical and analytical development, while at the same time developing soft skills at the same time, to really kind of try to give them that competitive advantage that's going to be crucial whether they're continuing in their education or going directly into the workforce. And then coming to a close here, we'd like to, of course, give you the invitation to try the simulations yourself to see if it's a good fit for your particular class and teaching style. And the way that it works is that when we send out the recording of this webinar, It'll include some information for you to be able to access the simulations directly, or if you'd like, I could take you through a little bit more in-depth product demonstration where we can look exactly at the products you want to look at. And we'd be more than happy to get that set up for everybody on the call here. And just a few other things that we'd like to note too is that we're happy to say that CAPSIMCore was actually considered as a finalist for a few awards this year. In fact, it was selected by the EdTech Digest Cool Tool Awards for the Games for Learning and Simulation Solutions category. And a little bit more recently than that, we were selected as a finalist by the SIA CODI Awards in the Best Game-Based Curriculum Solution category as well. And then what applies to all of our simulations that we've talked about today is that, number one, they're Perkins funding eligible. And perhaps more importantly is that we are WCAG 2.0 Class AA third-party verified for ADA compliancy. So any sort of, additional input devices or, closed captioning, color schemes, we account for that all up front. And CAPSIMCore has been fully covered by that. We're expecting Inbox to be covered by that by the end of the year as well.